I never thought love could feel like walking on broken glass until I met Marcus's sister, Victoria. From the very first day Marcus introduced us, I could see the cold calculation in her eyes as she sized me up, like a threat that needed to be eliminated. "So you are the one who has been taking up all my brother's time," she said with a smile that never reached her eyes. Her voice was honey, sweet. But there was poison underneath. I should have trusted my instincts that day. Marcus and I had been together for 8 months, when he first brought me to his family's Thanksgiving dinner. The Anderson family lived in one of those sprawling colonial houses in the suburbs, where everything looked perfect from the outside. Marcus was the youngest of 3 children, and Victoria, being the only daughter, had always been the princess of the family. 28. She was 3 years older than Marcus, and had never quite accepted that her baby brother had grown up. She still called him Marky in that patronizing tone that made my skin crawl, and she had a way of inserting herself into every aspect of his life. That first dinner, I watched her operate. She monopolized the conversation, steering every topic back to herself. When Marcus mentioned my promotion to senior software developer at my company, Victoria immediately launched into a story about her own career in marketing, making sure to emphasize how much more challenging her job was. "Oh, coding," she said dismissively when someone asked about my work. "That is nice. Such a technical field. Very isolated. I imagined not much human interaction." I bit my tongue and smiled politely. Marcus squeezed my hand under the table, and I thought that was enough. I thought he saw what she was doing, but Victoria was clever. She never crossed the line completely, never said anything outright cruel. She was a master of subtle manipulation, and I was just beginning to understand how dangerous that made her. The attacks started small, little comments here and there, always delivered with that same false smile. She had a gift for making her insults sound like compliments, and for somehow making me feel like I was being oversensitive when I noticed them. "Sarah, you look so tired lately. Are you getting enough sleep? Marcus works so hard and I worry he needs someone who can keep up with his energy level." "Oh, you are wearing that dress again. It is so practical. I admire women who don't feel the need to dress up for every occasion." "Marcus mentioned you don't cook much. That is so modern of you. I am sure he doesn't mind eating takeout all the time. He is very adaptable." Each comment was like a tiny paper cut, individually insignificant. But together they began to bleed me dry, and the worst part was that Marcus didn't see it. To him, Victoria was just being Victoria Faye, a little dramatic maybe, but ultimately harmless. "She is just protective," he would say when I tried to explain how his sister made me feel. "She has always been like that with anyone I've dated. She'll come around." But Victoria wasn't coming around. If anything, she was getting worse. As my relationship with Marcus deepened, her hostility became more pronounced. She found ways to monopolize his attention whenever I was around, calling him with emergencies. That always seemed to happen during our date nights, showing up unannounced at his apartment when she knew I'd be there. The breaking point came 6 months later, right around the time Marcus and I started talking about moving in together. Victoria went into full sabotage mode, and her tactics became increasingly desperate and cruel. She started spreading poison to their parents, little seeds of doubt about my character and intentions. She questioned whether I was really committed to Marcus, whether I was just using him for his connections in the tech industry. She wondered aloud if I was the kind of woman who would make a good wife and mother someday. I only learned about these conversations later, but I could see their effects. Marcus's parents, who had initially been warm and welcoming, began to act more reserved around me. His mother stopped inviting me to family events directly, instead telling Marcus to bring Sarah if she wants to come, as if my presence was now optional rather than expected. The manipulation was surgical in its precision. Victoria knew exactly which buttons to push with each family member. With their father, she emphasized concerns about my career ambitions, suggesting that I might not be willing to prioritize family. With their mother, she planted seeds of doubt about my domestic skills and my commitment to traditional values, and through it all, she maintained her facade of innocence. When confronted, she would look shocked and hurt that anyone could interpret her genuine concerns as anything other than love for her brother. The final assault began on a Tuesday evening in March. Marcus had just told his family that we were planning to move in together, and Victoria's mask finally slipped completely. That night, she launched a campaign that was so vicious and calculated that it took my breath away. It started with a phone call to Marcus at midnight. I was staying over at his place, and we were both fast asleep when his phone rang. Victoria was sobbing hysterically, claiming she had seen something terrible but couldn't talk about it over the phone. She begged him to come over immediately. Marcus, being the caring brother he was, threw on his clothes and rushed to her apartment. He was gone for 3 hours, and when he came back, his face was pale and his hands were shaking. "What happened?" I asked, sitting up in bed. "Is Victoria okay?" He looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before: confusion, hurt, and something that looked almost like betrayal. "She showed me some photos," he said slowly. "Photos of you with another man. She said she has been trying to figure out how to tell me, but she couldn't bear to see me get hurt." My blood ran cold. "What photos, Marcus? That is impossible. I haven't been with anyone else, you know that." But doubt had already crept into his eyes. Victoria had been so convincing, so devastated on his behalf. She had crafted a story about seeing me at a restaurant with another man, about following us and taking pictures, because she couldn't believe what she was seeing. The photos were grainy and taken from a distance, but they clearly showed a woman who looked like me having an intimate dinner with a man who wasn't Marcus. The woman in the photos had her back to the camera, but she had my hair color and build. She was even wearing a red dress that looked similar to one I owned. "These could be anyone," I protested, studying the images on Marcus's phone. "Marcus, you know me, you know I would never do this to you." But Victoria had been thorough. She had dates and times, details about what I had been wearing, even a story about how the man had walked me to a car that looked like mine. She had woven such an intricate web of lies that it was almost believable. The next few days were hell. Marcus wanted to believe me, but the seed of doubt had been planted and Victoria kept watering it. She would call him with new evidence: a sighting of me somewhere I shouldn't have been. A story from a friend who thought they saw me with someone else. I tried to defend myself, to prove my innocence, but how do you prove a negative? How do you prove that you weren't somewhere when the person accusing you has manufactured evidence that you were? Victoria played her role perfectly. She was the reluctant messenger, the sister who hated having to be the bearer of bad news. She cried real tears when she told Marcus how sorry she was that she had to tell him the truth. She even offered to give me another chance, because she knew how much Marcus loved me. "Maybe it was just a momentary lapse in judgment," she said with false magnanimity. "People make mistakes. If Sarah is truly sorry, and commits to being faithful, maybe we can move past this." It was a masterpiece of manipulation. She had positioned herself as the reasonable one, the forgiving one, while painting me as the cheater who needed to earn back trust I had never broken. The relationship began to crumble under the weight of her lies. Marcus tried to believe me, but the constant drip of Victoria's poison was wearing him down. He became suspicious and distant, questioning where I was going and who I was with. The easy trust we had built over months was dissolving, replaced by a toxic cloud of suspicion. I was desperate to prove my innocence, but Victoria was always one step ahead. Every time I thought I had debunked one of her lies, she would come up with a new piece of evidence. She was relentless, creative, and utterly without conscience. That is when I realized I needed to fight fire with fire. If Victoria was going to play dirty, I would have to be smart about protecting myself. I started documenting everything: every conversation, every accusation, every time she contacted Marcus with new evidence. And then, I remembered something that made my heart race with possibility. 6 months earlier, when my downstairs neighbor had had a break, and I had installed a comprehensive security system in my apartment. The system included cameras that covered not just the interior of my apartment, but also the hallway outside, and the building's entrance. Every person who entered or left my building was recorded. Every visitor was captured on camera. Every moment of my home life was documented with timestamps and crystal clear video quality. I rushed home that night and accessed the security system's cloud storage. What I found made my hands shake with relief and rage in equal measure. The videos showed everything. They showed me coming home alone every night that Victoria claimed I had been out with another man. They showed Marcus visiting and staying over on the exact nights Victoria said I had been unfaithful. They showed my consistent, boring, faithful routine of work, home, and spending time with my boyfriend, but more importantly, they showed Victoria. I watched in amazement as the recordings revealed the depths of her deception. There she was, multiple times over the past 2 months, lurking outside my building with a camera. There she was, following me to restaurants and coffee shops, always careful to stay hidden but not careful enough to avoid my security cameras. And then I found the smoking gun video footage of Victoria staging the photographs she had shown Marcus. The recordings from 2 weeks earlier showed her arriving at my building with another man. I didn't recognize Faye, tall, dark-haired, wearing clothes similar to what Marcus usually wore. They had waited in the parking garage until they saw me leave for work. Then the man had put on one of Marcus's jackets that Victoria must have taken from his apartment. The video showed them going to the restaurant where the cheating photos had been taken. It showed Victoria directing the scene like a movie director, positioning the man so that his back would be to the camera, instructing him on how to sit and move to create the illusion of intimacy. But the most damning footage came from later that same evening. The cameras captured Victoria and her accomplice returning to my building. They had waited in the parking lot until I came home from work. Then Victoria had taken photographs of me walking to my car, carefully cropping and editing them to make it look like I was leaving with her male co-conspirator, instead of arriving alone. I had everything. Hours of footage that completely debunked Victoria's lies, and showed the elaborate lengths she had gone to in order to destroy my relationship. The videos were time-stamped, high definition, and absolutely irrefutable, but I didn't rush to Marcus with this evidence. I had learned from watching Victoria that timing and presentation were everything. If I wanted to truly expose her, I needed to be strategic. I spent the next week quietly preparing. I organized the video evidence, chronologically, creating a clear timeline that showed Victoria's stalking behavior and the deliberate staging of the photographs. I made copies of everything, storing them in multiple locations to ensure she couldn't somehow make them disappear. And then I waited for the perfect opportunity. It came the following Sunday, at Marcus's parents' house for their monthly family dinner. Victoria had orchestrated these gatherings to become stages for her performance. Opportunities to further poison the family against me while maintaining her facade of concern. That night she outdid herself. She pulled Marcus aside before dinner, and tearfully told him that she had seen me with the other man again, that she was worried I was taking advantage of his forgiveness and continuing my affair. She suggested, with fake reluctance, that maybe it was time for Marcus to face reality about what kind of person I was. Marcus came back to the dinner table looking devastated. His parents could sense the tension, and Victoria played her role perfectly, acting concerned and supportive, while subtly encouraging the family to see me as the problem. "I just want Marcus to be happy," she said with a martyred sigh. "If Sarah makes him happy, then I support her completely. I just hope she is being honest with him about her commitments." It was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive manipulation, and I could see it working. Marcus's parents exchanged worried glances. His father cleared his throat uncomfortably. His mother looked at me with poorly concealed suspicion. "Actually," I said quietly, "there is something I'd like to show everyone." I pulled out my laptop and set it on the dining room table. Every eye in the room was on me as I opened the first video file. "Victoria," I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins, "you've been telling Marcus that you saw me cheating on him. You showed him photographs as proof. I think everyone should see where those photographs really came from." The first video began to play. It showed Victoria outside my building, camera in hand, clearly following me. The timestamp showed it was one of the nights she claimed to have witnessed my infidelity. Marcus leaned forward, his eyes widening as he recognized his sister on the screen. "Victoria, what? What is this?" But Victoria was already on the defensive. "This is ridiculous," she snapped. "Anyone can fake videos these days. Sarah is obviously—" "Wait," I said calmly, "there is more." I played the video of Victoria staging the photographs with her male accomplice. The room fell completely silent as they watched her directing the scene, positioning the man to create the illusion of a romantic dinner, carefully framing the shots to deceive Marcus. Victoria's face had gone completely white. She opened her mouth to speak but no words came out. "And here," I continued, "is the footage from that same evening, showing me coming home from work alone, at 6:30 p.m., while Victoria was busy staging fake evidence of my infidelity, at a restaurant across town. The video played showing my boring, faithful routine in real time. The timestamps were clear and irrefutable. Marcus looked from the screen to his sister, his face a mask of shock and betrayal. Victoria, you made this up, all of it. The family sat in stunned silence as the full scope of Victoria's deception became clear. Her manipulation, her lies, her calculated cruelty. It was all laid bare in high-definition video. I can explain. Victoria started, but her voice was shaking and her usual confidence had completely abandoned her. Explain what? Marcus's father demanded. His voice was cold and sharp. Explain how you deliberately sabotaged your brother's relationship. Explain how you lied to our faces for months. Explain how you manipulated us into doubting an innocent woman. Victoria tried one last desperate lie. She must have set this up somehow. She has been planning this, Victoria. Marcus's voice cut through her protests like a blade. Stop, just stop. He turned to me, his eyes filled with shame and regret. Sarah, I am so sorry. I should have trusted you. I should have seen what she was doing. But I wasn't finished yet. I had one more video to show Faye, the most damning one of all. There is something else, I said quietly. Victoria, you didn't just stage those photographs. You've been stalking me for months. You've been following me, documenting my movements, planning this destruction. I played the compilation video I had created, showing dozens of instances of Victoria lurking outside my building, following me to work, watching me from her car in parking lots. The footage showed a pattern of obsessive behavior that went far beyond sisterly concern. You are sick, Marcus said to his sister, his voice barely above a whisper. This is insane. Victoria finally broke. The facade cracked completely. And for the first time I saw who she really was underneath the manipulation and lies. She doesn't deserve you, she screamed, her composure completely shattered. You are my brother. You are supposed to choose family. She is nobody. Faye, just some girl who happened to catch your attention. I've been in your life forever, and she waltzed in and suddenly I don't matter anymore. The raw jealousy and possessiveness in her voice was shocking. This wasn't about protecting Marcus. It was about owning him. Victoria couldn't bear to share her brother's love and attention with anyone else. You tried to destroy an innocent woman, their mother said, her voice shaking with anger and disappointment. Your own behavior is what drove Marcus away from you. How could you do something so cruel? Victoria looked around the table at her family's faces. Faye, all of them staring at her with horror and disgust. The golden child, the beloved daughter, had revealed herself to be something monstrous. I want you to leave, their father said quietly. Get out of my house. Don't come back until you are ready to apologize properly and get the help you clearly need. Victoria fled, her sobs echoing through the house as the front door slammed behind her. In the silence that followed, Marcus took my hand. Sarah, I don't know how to make this up to you. I should have trusted you from the beginning. I should have seen what she was doing. I looked at him. Faye, this man I loved, who had been manipulated as expertly as a puppet on strings. She is your sister. Of course you wanted to believe her. But Marcus, this can't happen again. If we're going to move forward, you need to set boundaries with her. He nodded, his grip on my hand tightening. She won't have the chance to hurt you again, or us. 6 months later, Marcus and I moved in together as planned. Victoria had been required by her family to attend therapy, and while she had eventually offered a stilted apology, the damage to her relationships was permanent. The family dynamics had shifted irrevocably once everyone understood the extent of her manipulation. Marcus's parents went out of their way to welcome me warmly, clearly feeling guilty about the suspicion they had harbored. Their father even pulled me aside one day to tell me how impressed he was with the way I had handled the situation. You could have destroyed Victoria publicly, he said. You had every right to, but you showed remarkable restraint and dignity. You are exactly the kind of woman we want in this family. But the real change was in Marcus. The experience had opened his eyes to his sister's true nature, and he had finally learned to see through her manipulation. He set firm boundaries, refusing to be drawn into her drama, or to allow her to interfere in our relationship. I spent so many years making excuses for her behavior, he told me one evening as we unpacked boxes in our new apartment. I told myself she was just protective, just dramatic. I never wanted to admit that she was actually cruel. Victoria made a few more attempts to cause trouble, but they were half-hearted and easily deflected. The security footage had destroyed her credibility completely, and the family was now alert to her tactics. She eventually moved to another city for a fresh start, though I sometimes wondered if she was subjecting some other woman to the same treatment. Looking back, I realized that Victoria's downfall wasn't really about the security cameras or the evidence I gathered. Her destruction was built into her character from the beginning. She was so consumed with jealousy and control that she ultimately exposed herself. The cameras just made sure everyone could see who she really was. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all, Faye. It is simply allowing toxic people to reveal their true nature to the world. Victoria destroyed herself with her own cruelty and manipulation. All I did was make sure her family could see it clearly. Today, Marcus and I are happily married, and Victoria is nothing more than an unpleasant memory. She taught me an important lesson about trust and documentation, about the power of truth when it is properly presented, but most importantly, she taught me that sometimes the best way to defeat a manipulator is simply to let them hang themselves with their own rope, and to make sure you have cameras rolling when they do it.